I woke up in a stranger's skin, staring at a ceiling stained with the ghosts of 1,000 leaky roofs in some godforsaken Queen's walk-up. And the first thought that sliced through my skull was, they did it. Those bastards actually pulled it off. My hands, his hands, gnarled and veined like old leather, trembled as I touched my face, feeling the unfamiliar stubble and sagging jowls of Harold Jenkins, a 68-year-old janitor who'd croaked from a heart attack 2 nights ago. But I wasn't dead. I was me, Sadie Harlan, biotech wunderkind, billionaire on the cusp of rewriting human destiny, trapped in this rotting husk because my own husband and his sister had decided my empire wasn't big enough for all 3 of us. The betrayal hit like a freight train through the Holland Tunnel. Marcus, my husband of 8 years, the silver-tongued venture capitalist who'd charmed me out of my MIT dorm and into his bed, had greenlit the swap. Not just greenlit, orchestrated it. And Elena, his sister, the holier-than-thou animal rights activist who'd married into our world but never stopped preaching about corporate soul-sucking, was the one who'd sabotaged everything. She'd freed my rabbits last week. Those precious little furballs in my lab, my breakthrough, my fortune's beating heart, thinking she was saving them from my mad science. She had no clue those New Zealand whites weren't just pets. They were the vessels for the neural mapping serum that made body swapping possible. Without them, my tech was crippled. With them gone, Marcus and Elena thought they'd inherit my life, my body, my everything. I sat up in Harold's sagging twin bed, the springs groaning like a dying man's last breath, and laughed a wet, hacking cough that tasted like regret and cheap bourbon. The mirror across the room showed a face I'd only glimpsed in passing, watery blue eyes, liver spots marching across cheeks like defeated soldiers, a mouth twisted in perpetual apology. Harold had been nobody, sweeping floors at Harlan Biogen for minimum wage, invisible to the C-suite where I'd built my throne. Now I was him, and they were me. The swap had been flawless, my serum bridging our minds across the void of death. Harold's consciousness faded to ether. Poor sap. Mine, clinging like kudzu, plotting. That first day was a blur of survival instincts kicking in harder than a Red Bull chugger at a startup pitch. I rifled through Harold's meager belongings, a faded Mets cap, a dog-eared Bible with passages underlined in frantic pencil, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord," and a stack of unpaid bills that made my old life flash before my eyes like a bad acid trip. My real body, Sadie's body, lithe and sharp as a scalpel, with that signature auburn bob and the tattoo of a double helix on my collarbone, was parading around my Soho penthouse right now, Marcus puppeteering it with Elena's help. They dosed me during our anniversary dinner at Le Bernardin, spiked the foie gras with a paralytic, then wheeled me into the lab under cover of night. The rabbits were the key. Their brains, rewired with my serum, had stabilized the transfer, mapping synaptic fireworks from my neurons to Harold's dying ones. Elena's rescue had been timed perfectly, post-swap, pre-autopsy, erasing the evidence. I stumbled to the kitchenette, a Formica nightmare straight out of a 70s sitcom, and chugged water from a chipped mug that said, "World's okayest janitor." My Harold's body ached like it had been run over by a cab on Fifth Avenue, every joint screaming from decades of mopping and regret. But my mind, razor sharp, fueled by a rage that could power the grid from Battery Park to the Bronx. I needed a plan. Not some half-baked revenge flick bullshit, but something surgical. American as apple pie laced with arsenic. Dismantle them from the inside. Make them choke on their own greed. By noon, I was on the subway, the F train rattling like loose change in a beggar's cup, heading back to Harlan Biogen in Midtown. Harold's keycard still worked, perks of being the guy who emptied the trash cans after hours. I kept my head down, blending into the sea of commuters, Wall Street wolves in Brooks Brothers, baristas with sleeve tats and existential dread, tourists snapping pics of graffiti that screamed, "Fuck the system." Irony? I was the system now. Or what was left of it. Stepping off at 53rd. The autumn chill bit through Harold's threadbare jacket, carrying the scent of hot dogs and desperation from the carts. The city pulsed around me. Oblivious, a yellow cab honking at a jaywalker. A street preacher railing about the end times. If only they knew the apocalypse was personal. And I was its harbinger. The lobby of Harlan Biogen gleamed like a fever dream, marble floors veined with quartz. Walls lined with abstract art that cost more than Harold's lifetime earnings. Security nodded me through. Old Harry Jenkins, reliable as death and taxes. I took the service elevator, the one that smelled of bleach and broken dreams, up to the 22nd floor lab. My lab. Heart pounding like a bass drop at a rooftop rave. I swiped in, the doors hissing open to reveal the chaos Elena had wrought. Cages lay toppled like dominoes, hay strewn across the sterile tile like confetti from a botched parade. The rabbits, my 24 miracles, each one a furry supercomputer with brains juiced on CRISPR edits, were gone. Scattered droppings mocked me. And on the whiteboard, Elena's sharpest scrawl, liberated. No more Frankenstein bullshit. Love. Your conscience. Bitch. Those rabbits weren't just test subjects, they were the patent-pending goldmine. Their neural density allowed the serum to compress a human mind into data packets small enough for transfer without frying the host. I'd sunk $200 million into breeding them, tweaking their genomes in secret, all while Marcus siphoned funds to his side investments. The betrayal ran deeper than veins. He'd known about the rabbits from day one. Fed Elena intel during their late-night, sibling check-ins at our kitchen island, wine glasses clinking like conspirators' toasts. I sank to my knees, Harold's bad hip popping like gunfire, and let the tears come, hot, furious tracks down this stranger's face. Not for the bunnies. Though God. I miss their twitching noses and the way they'd nuzzle my palm after a long day. No. For the life they'd stolen. Sadie Harlan, 32. Forbes 30 under 30. The woman who'd clawed from a trailer park in Appalachia to boardrooms where she'd made men twice her age squirm. Now, a ghost in a janitor's skin, watching from the shadows as imposters wore her face to sign deals that would bankrupt her legacy. But shadows have teeth. I straightened, wiping snot on Harold's sleeve, and booted up the auxiliary terminal, the one even Marcus didn't know about, hidden in a utility closet behind false panels. Password: Rabbit Hole 42. The screen flickered to life, pulling archived data from the cloud server in a nondescript data center upstate. Partial serum batches remained, enough for one more swap if I played my cards right. But revenge wasn't about slipping back into my skin. That was too clean, too merciful. No. I wanted them to feel it, the slow rot of losing everything, piece by gut-wrenching piece. First target, Elena. She was the weak link, the bleeding heart activist who'd posed as my confidant, crashing our girls' nights with tales of fur farm horrors while eyeing my Birkin like it was the devil's handbag. Last I knew before the swap, she was holed up in our guest house in the Hamptons, detoxing from city toxins with yoga and kale smoothies. Harold's ancient Nokia buzzed in my pocket, a text from the real Elena. In my body. No doubt. Harry, clean the lab ASAP. Big investor tour tomorrow. Don't fuck it up. Smiley emoji. Like she was signing off a Hallmark card. I typed back with trembling thumbs. On it. Boss. Everything shipshape. Liar. By midnight, I'd rigged the lab, a timed release of the remaining serum vapor into the HVAC, calibrated to trigger during the tour. It wouldn't kill, just disorient, scramble short-term memories, make Sadie, Elena in my skin, stutter through her pitch like a drunk at karaoke. Investors would smell blood, pull funding, watch Harlan Biogen's stock crater like the '08 crash. But that was appetizer. Main course? Exposing Marcus's offshore accounts. The ones he'd funneled my IP to for a shadow company. I'd hacked them pre-swap. Buried the evidence in Harold's name, ironic. A dead man's digital grave. As dawn bled orange over the skyline, I slipped out, melting into the pre-dawn joggers and dogwalkers. The city was waking, but I was already 3 steps ahead. A phantom in flannel plotting the fall of gods. They thought they'd won, dancing in my skin to Pharrell on the penthouse turntable. But fortune's a fickle bitch. And my rabbits? Their freedom was the spark. Now, I'd burn it all down. The investor tour was a shit show scripted by the devil himself. And I had front row seats from the janitor's closet, peeking through a cracked door like some voyeur in a noir flick. Picture it, Midtown Manhattan, 10 a.m. Sharp. The boardroom buzzing with the scent of overpriced espresso and entitlement. Elena and Sadie's bodies strode in like she owned the joint, which, technically, she did now, flanked by Marcus in his tailored Zegna suit, flashing that shark grin that used to make my knees weak. The suits from Kleiner Perkins filed in behind, clipboards at the ready, eyes gleaming for the next unicorn to saddle. Ladies and gents, Elena began, her voice a pitch-perfect mimic of my clipped Boston accent. Welcome to the future of immortality. She gestured to the holographic display. My life's work projected in azure light, synaptic bridges arcing like fireworks, mind maps pulsing with data from those damned rabbits. But as she hit the demo button, the HVAC hummed a low, ominous purr-eyed jury-rigged with a $20 Home Depot timer, and the serum missed it out. Invisible as sin. At first, nothing. Elena plowed on, rattling off stats. Our neural compression algorithm reduces ego transfer latency by 87%, thanks to proprietary biomodels. The VCs nodded, scribbling notes. Then it hit. Her eyes glazed. Mid-sentence. Like a glitch in the Matrix. Rabbits, wait. No. The vectors, they're the key, too. Fuck. The words slipped out, raw and unsadie, hanging in the air like a fart at a funeral. Marcus froze, his hand twitching toward hers. But she barreled on, sweat beading on my forehead. I mean, the serum stabilized the thingy. You know, the brain stuff. Laughter rippled, nervous, cutting. One VC, a silver fox with a Rolex that screamed old money, leaned forward. MS. Harlan, you all right? Sound like you need a coffee or a script. Elena flushed crimson, my porcelain skin betraying her like a snitch. Marcus jumped in, smooth as WD-40, jet lag. Folks. Sadie's been burning the midnight oil on Phase 3 trials. But the damage was done. Questions turned pointed. Timeline slippage? Regulatory hurdles? By the coffee break, they were gone. Tails between legs. Emails already pinging my shadow inbox, pulling investment. Confidence eroded. I stifled a cackle. Harold's wheeze turning it to a cough, and mopped the hall with deliberate slowness, eavesdropping as Marcus tore into her in the executive washroom. What the hell? Lena? You sounded like a stoner at a TED Talk. Her voice cracked. My voice. High and frayed. It's this body.
Mark.
Feels wrong. Like wearing someone else's skin, literally. Irony dripped thicker than the pine sol on my rag. They didn't know the half of it. That night, I tailed them to the penthouse. Harold's beat-up Chevy Cavalier blending with the Ubers like camouflage. Soho streets thrummed with the after-work crowd, hipsters nursing IPAs at rooftop bars, cabbies cursing gridlock, the distant wail of sirens painting the night in blues. I parked in an alley, scaled the fire escape, Jesus. Harold's lungs burned like cheap cigars, and crouched on the landing, peering through the floor-to-ceiling glass like a raccoon at a picnic. Inside, my former life unfolded in cruel high-def. Marcus poured scotch neat, ice clinking like accusations, while Elena paced in silk pajamas that hugged my curves too familiarly. We need to accelerate the sale, he said, voice low. Dump the stock before the street catches wind. She whirled, eyes wild. Sell her company? Our ticket to billions? What about the rabbits? If we find them, he cut her off, grabbing me, by the arms. The rabbits are gone. Lena. Your bleeding heart stunt bought us this mess. But hey. Silver lining, Sadie's out. We're in. Act like it. The kiss that followed twisted my gut. Hungry. Desperate. A betrayal on betrayal. Brother and sister. Lovers in the shadows. The pieces clicked late nights. Whispered calls. The way she'd lingered too long at our holiday table. Eyes devouring Marcus like forbidden fruit. Incestuous greed. Wrapped in family bows. I'd suspected dalliances. But this? Nuclear. Rage boiled. But I reined it, slipping my burner phone from my pocket. A quick snap through the glass, time-stamped proof. Faces clear as conscience. Next morning, I hit the underbelly of the city. The parts Sadie Harlan never touched, ethnic delis in Astoria, where whispers bought secrets cheaper than falafel. Harold had contacts, barflies and bookies who'd slipped him 20s for silence. I cashed in, dropping $500 on a fixer named Rico, a Dominican ex-con with a gold tooth and a knack for digital dirt. You want dirt on Harlan? The pretty boy VC. He grinned, scrolling his phone. Got something better. Offshore shells. Cayman Islands. Millions laundered through biopatents. By dusk, I had files, PDFs of wire transfers, emails stamped with Marcus's sig. Enough to torch his career. But I held back. Timing was everything. Elena's unraveling accelerated like a bad trip. Texts from Harry went unanswered. But I saw the toll. Sadie's social feeds lit up with erratic posts, yoga selfies captioned "Finding My Center" or "Losing It," and a canceled keynote at TechCrunch disrupt. The press smelled weakness. Harlan Biogen stumbles. CEO Harlan's bizarre outburst raises eyebrows. Marcus spun it as innovation fatigue, but the board convened emergency sessions. Vultures circling. My move came on a rainy Thursday, the kind that turns Gotham into a watercolor of regret. I cornered Elena at Whole Foods on Houston, loading her cart with organic quinoa like nothing had changed. Harold's apron from a side gig as a stock boy got me behind the registers.
MS.
Harlan. I rasped, voice pitched low. She turned, my face staring back, gaunt.
Hunted.
Harry. What? I pressed a USB into her palm. wrapped in a produce bag. Found this in the lab vents. Thought you'd want it. Rabbits. They left a trail. Her eyes widened, greed flickering. What is it? Backups. Serum formulas. But encrypted. Only you can crack it.
Lie.
Of course, the drive held the affair pics. Time to auto-send to the board if she plugged it in wrong. She snatched it, vanishing into the downpour. I watched from the window, rain sheeting like tears, as she hailed a cab toward the Hamptons hideout. That night, the penthouse erupted. Marcus's bellow echoed down the fire escape. You what? Plugged in a random drive from the janitor? Sirens wailed distant. But the real storm was inside. Elena sobs. It was the rabbit's data. I swear, then boom. Emails everywhere. The board knows about us.
Mark.
Everything. Chaos. Shattered glass. Accusations flying like shrapnel.
By dawn.
He'd packed a bag, fleeing to his bachelor pad in Tribeca, leaving her to the wolves. I should have felt triumph, but it tasted like ash. Harold's body was failing, chest pains like ice picks, vision blurring at the edges. The serum's half-life was ticking. Without a booster from the rabbits, I'd fade like a Polaroid in the sun. But revenge wasn't done. Marcus next. He thought he could rebuild, courting new backers at a gala in the Met's Temple of Dunder. I crashed it as Harry the cater-waiter. Trays balanced like a tightrope walk over hell. Slipping the tainted flute of champagne into his hand was easy, serum-laced. A microdose to induce paranoia. He sipped, eyes locking on mine across the crowd. Recognition? Impossible. But as the night wore on, he unraveled, cornering investors with wild rants about body thieves and stolen souls, sweat soaking his collar. Security escorted him out, whispers trailing, crack up. Unstable. By week's end, Harlan Biogen teetered, stock down 40%. Lawsuits brewing from jilted VCs. Elena holed up, popping Xanax like candy. Marcus drowned in scotch, dodging process servers. I holed up in Harold's walk-up, piecing together the final play. The rabbits, word from underground contacts, Elena had rehomed them to a sanctuary in upstate New York. Some vegan commune off the Taconic Parkway. If I could retrieve one, extract the booster. But doubt crept in, cold as a subway draft. Was this justice or just spite? The city chewed you up, spat you out. Wall Street's wolves didn't mourn their kills. Still, the hook in my gut pulled north. Upstate New York hit like a detox enema after Manhattan's grind, rolling hills cloaked in October fog, leaves crunching under tires like brittle bones, the air crisp with the promise of frostbite and forgotten sins. Harold's Chevy wheezed up the Taconic. Radio crackling Springsteen, Born to Run. Fitting anthem for a ghost chasing redemption. The sanctuary, haven for the hopeless, squatted on 50 acres of reclaimed farmland, white clapboard barns, wind chimes tinkling like wind-up toys, signs preaching all life sacred in hand-painted script. Elena's handiwork. No doubt her Pinterest board come to life. I parked in the gravel lot, joints protesting the chill, and approached the gate like a penitent sinner. A volunteer, dreadlocked kid in hemp overalls, eyed me warily. Help you?
Pops.
Hear about the rabbits. New Zealand whites. Dropped off last month. Harlan Biogen rejects. He perked up, leading me to a sun-dappled enclosure, chain-link runs dotted with burrows. Veggies piled high. There they were, my prodigies. fat and content, ears flopping as they nibbled kale. One locked eyes with me, nose twitching recognition. Or hallucination. Harold's mind fraying, bleeding into mine. These the ones? The kid asked. I nodded, throat tight.
Need to. Inspect.
Health check. He shrugged, unlocking the gate. Kneeling in the mud, I scooped the closest, a buck with a notched ear. My alpha from batch A. His warmth seeped through calloused fingers. A lifeline. Hypodermic from my coat pocket, sterile. Pilfered from the lab, drew blood quick. The crimson elixir that could anchor me. One dose, and I'd stabilize. By time for the endgame. But as I labeled the vial, tires crunched, a black Escalade. Plates screaming Hampton's Elite. Elena emerged, bundled in cashmere. Face, my face, pale as milk. Harry, what the fuck are you doing here? Panic edged her voice. Eyes darting to the rabbit in my arms. I stood slow, vial glinting like a talisman. Same as you.
Ma'am.
Saving what's mine. The confrontation unfolded in the barn's shadow. Hay bales our jury box. She lunged for the vial. I sidestepped. Harold's agility, a cruel joke. Give it back. That's company property. Your property now.
Huh?
Ever since you slipped into my skin like a thief in the night. Her laugh was brittle. Unsadie. What are you babbling about? Old man? You're fired. You know that? Marcus said. Marcus says a lot. Like how he's been fucking his sister since college. Laundering my patents to fund your little love nest in Antigua. She staggered. Hand to mouth, my manicured nails digging crescents.
Lies.
You're deranged. But doubt flickered. The serum's paranoia gnawing. I pressed. The swap. Lena. Anniversary dinner. You held the four. Whispered sweet dreams. Sadie, as the lights went out. Felt right. Wearing me? Parading as the genius, while I rotted in this sack. Horror dawned. Slow as sunrise over the Hudson. Impossible. The serum. It erases the host. You're dead. Almost. But science is a bitch. Residuals cling. Like guilt. She backed away, fumbling for her phone. Marcus. Get up here, it's... I lunged then. Not with fists but words. The vial my Excalibur. One call. And those pics hit TMZ. Incestuous power couple tanks biotech darling. Or we talk. Real talk.
Why?
Tears, my tears, tracked mascara. The floodgates cracked, Marcus's debts. Gambling dens in Atlantic City, bleeding him dry. My success?
Their lifeline.
He needed the company. You were. Expendable. The rabbits, I thought they were torture. Freeing them was mercy. Mercy? I barked a laugh. Mercy for furballs worth billions. You gutted my future for Instagram virtue points. She sobbed, collapsing against a post. We didn't mean. After the swap. It was supposed to be clean. But wearing you? It's hell. Your memories bleed in, nights alone in the lab. Mom's cancer eating you alive. I feel your rage. Empathy? A twist I hadn't scripted. Harold's heart stuttered, his own ghosts rising. A wife lost to the bottle. Kids who never called. For a beat. I wavered. Inject the serum. Reclaim my body in a reverse swap. End it poetic. But revenge isn't mercy's cousin. Too late for feels. Lena. You chose blood over bunnies. Sirens wailed distant. Her call connected? No time. I bolted for the Chevy. Vial clutched. Rabbits scattering like omens. The drive back was a blur. Fog-shrouded roads. Radio preaching psalms on damnation. Midtown swallowed me. Neon veins pulsing judgment. At the lab, still mined by Ghost Key, I prepped the final dose. Serum humming in my veins like liquid fire. Stability returned, mind sharpening to scalpel edge. Marcus waited in the penthouse. Cornered rat in a silk cage. I texted from Elena's compromised phone. Lab.
Now.
Or the world sees your dirtbags. He arrived, twitchy. 2 a.m. Shadows carving his face to bone. What is this? Jenkins? Some extortion shit. I stepped from the dark. Voice steady. Sadie. Say it. His eyes bulged.
No.
You're dead?
Close.
But I'm the ghost who haunts. The confession spilled. Debts to Russian oligarchs. Elena's complicity born of twisted love. We swapped you to inherit. Clean kill. New life. I circled him. Predator's grace in prey skin. And the rabbits? Collateral. Lena's idea, destroy the evidence. The vial glinted. 1 shot left.
Take it.
Swap back. Face the music as yourselves. He lunged, greed's last gasp, but I was faster. Serum surging. The needle plunged into his neck. Not lethal, but truth serum grade, a hallucinogenic brew to peel back lies. He convulsed, babbling, the twist. Elena wasn't freeing them for mercy. She bred them. In the sanctuary. Hybrids. Sadie. Rabbit-human chimeras. Your serum, but weaponized. For black market swaps. Immortality for the elite. Starting with us. The world tilted. Elena? Not pawn, but queen. Her activism a front. Rabbits her army. The fortune? Not mine alone, hers. Twisted into a shadow empire. Betrayal's knife twisted deeper. I'd built the tech. She'd perverted it. Marcus slumped. Foaming. She planned it from the start. Swapped you to test it live. I'm just the fall guy. Cops breached at dawn. Elena's 9/11. Twisted to frame me. But the recordings, the files, the serum in his veins? Checkmate. As they cuffed Harold's wrists, my wrists now, I met Elena's eyes across the chaos. In my body still, but cracked, her mask slipping. You freed them, I whispered. But they were always mine. Trial was a circus. Headlines screaming biotech body swap scandal. Incest. Greed. And genetically modified revenge. Marcus flipped. Sang like Sinatra on speed. Elena lawyered up. Claiming coercion. The Chimera reveal? FBI raid on the sanctuary unearthed horrors. Cages of abominations. Half fur, half flesh. Sold to Saudi princes for soul swaps. My patents?
Seized.
But the tech lived. Open-sourced by a sympathetic judge. Fortune?
Poof.
But freedom? Priceless. In the end, they rotted in federal pens, Marcus broken. Elena defiant, preaching from her cell about corporate liberation.
Me?
I kept Harold's body. The swap irreversible without her hybrids. Settled a civil suit for peanuts. Bought a brownstone in Brooklyn with a yard for. Well, rabbits. Legal ones. Pets this time. No serum. No schemes, just twitching noses and quiet nights. Was it happy? Tragic? Ask the tabloids. They're still arguing.
Me?
I wake each morning to a face that's earned its lines, staring out at a city that tried to bury me. But roots run deep.
And revenge?
It's the fortune that keeps on giving.